Hello and welcome to Challenge to Build. My name is Paul Michael, and in today's episode we are working on the steering drag link on the front end of the 1959 Chevy Viking project. If you've been following along in the video series that I've been making, we have since the last video made a new punch list, and we successfully completed number 1 on the punch list last week, and that was with welding the frame straps in the rear of the frame. And number 2 on the list is the drag link. Due to the front suspension geometry, I had to change some things up again. No surprise there. In my first attempt at making my drag link, I didn't make it drop far enough. So that is what the focus is for today's video. Once I get this heim joint taken off, I'm going to pull the drag link out and I'm going to set it up on the welding table. We're going to weld it, temporarily weld a support on it so I can cut it apart, and I have 2 5/8 spacers that I got to cut and weld into the bar so that way it drops down. But that's what the goal of the video is today. And with that, the bar is out, let's get to work. In today's quick tip, it's all about staying warm. If you're anything like me, my feet get cold really quick when it's cold out, and when you're working in the garage or outside or wherever it is that you're working in cold weather, when standing on, for me specifically, the concrete floor, the coldness of the concrete will radiate or transfer from the floor into my feet, making my feet really cold really quick, which lessens the amount of time that I can spend in the garage, just because once I get cold, that's it, my time is up. So in order to combat the coldness, I have come up with a thermal brake. This is a simple 3/4 inch piece of plywood. It is 2 feet long by 2 feet long. I opted for a 3/4 inch piece of plywood because 3/4 inch plywood can span 2 feet, so it can hold a little bit of weight without flex. In order to achieve the thermal brake, I went ahead and screwed on non-skid pads on the bottom of the plywood, which allows there to be an air gap between the cold surface that you're working on and the pad. So as simple as just placing this on the concrete floor, I have now created a thermal brake between the cold floor and my feet, which will lengthen the amount of time that I can stand in one particular place. So when you're working at a welding table for a long period of time and the floor is cold, standing on a simple board will extend the amount of time that you will be able to work in one place. Granted, you will have to move it around from place to place if you are working in multiple locations, but it doesn't weigh that much. It's relatively easy to make. I spent about $10 on the whole setup, plywood and pads alike. I bought everything from Home Depot. I went ahead and radiused the corners with sandpaper and a grinder, just so that way it would be a little bit smoother and I wouldn't cut myself. You could take it one step further and cut a handhold, so that way you at least have some place to move it and hold it when you're moving it around. And this is my quick tip. So in order to modify my drag link, what I got to do is I'm going to weld a piece of 1.25 inch angle to the top of the bar on both sides, so this way here my overall length of the bar stays the same, and the distance between my drop stays the same, because the only thing I have to do is drop the center section of the bar down about 1.5 inches to clearance for the oil pan, now that I've dropped the truck another inch since the modification of the front axle. So once I get the angle support welded on, I'm going to come in and cut the welds on both sides. I have already gone ahead and cut the 5/8 spacers that I'm going to weld in, and then I'm going to proceed to box everything in and strengthen everything up. Also, another thing that we're going to have to do is I need to strengthen the pivot point to where my rod end goes in and attaches to the steering gear. Finish welding everything, gusset the corners. The drag link is made out of Schedule 40 1.25 inch pipe. You may, before you start posting a whole bunch of comments saying that it needs to be a solid bar, the original drag link that I actually took off of this front end was actually a little bit lighter than this, and it was hollow. The reason being is because this is, I believe, a solid front axle. There's not as much movement in the suspension for independent suspension. At least that's my opinion. This may be an item that I have custom made at a metal shop out of a solid bar later on down the road, but for right now, in order to get the truck built and moving, this will work just fine. So I'm gonna fire up the generator, turn on the welder. We're gonna get into doing some welding and some fabricating, and hopefully by the end of this video, we will have this back in under the truck. So unfortunately, I was not able to get as far as I wanted to today on the drag link. This past week has been quite an eventful week for me and my family. If you follow me on Twitter, you will have known that we adopted a dog this past week. So learning how to deal with a puppy, and in the addition of a puppy, my work schedule has continued to increase at my normal job. So trying to balance it out, trying to balance family, a puppy, work, and continuing to work on the truck and make YouTube videos has been quite an eventful week. All that being said, we'll pick up next week on the bump stops, and I will overview the finishing touches that I made on the drag link throughout the week. If you want to stay up to date periodically without being on YouTube, you can follow me on Twitter at @ChallengeTheBuild, @DieselViking60. I will have a link in the description below. You can go ahead and click on the link and follow me on Twitter. Also over at @ChallengeTheBuild. The spaces between Challenge the Build are underscores. Again, there will be a link in the description below. In the meantime, I want you to get out there and challenge your build. My name is Comica. This is Challenge the Build. I will see you in the next video.